Good morning, everybody. So in the last episode, we built the lower receiver for my current AR15 that I'm building. And I went through the process of showing y'all how to go about doing that step by step. And in this video, I'm gonna be doing the same thing, but we're gonna be doing it with the upper receiver. So I've got my upper receiver vice block from, I believe it's Plastics Revolution. I've got it right here set up. I'm gonna go ahead and take the upper receiver and put it in the upper vice block. And the only thing that is already done on this is the forward assist is already installed, as well as the dust cover. So that's already put on. So we're just gonna go ahead and install these. While we're going to install it, all we're doing is sliding the nubs right here for the takedown and the pivot pin into place, making sure it sets in, and then we're gonna slide the pin into place to hold it in, both the front and the back. We have these little clips to hold them in place. This will give us all the holding power that we need for right now. So next on the list is to put the barrel on, and we're gonna go ahead and open this. Okay, so we got the barrel out now. And then the one thing that you're gonna want to make sure of is that whatever handguard you have the barrel nut that goes with it. So we're gonna go ahead and open this. And then each barrel, whatever barrel nut that it comes with, if it's one that you need a specific barrel nut wrench, it'll come with it. So we got that also, and we're just gonna take this box and throw it over to the side. And then we will go ahead and get this barrel nut out. And what type of barrel nut and the size, the type of wrench, and everything that you need, as well as the tools that you need to uninstall and install it, will differ depending on what specific barrel nut you get. So just take that into consideration. Okay, so we got the barrel nut out right here, and the one thing that you can see is that it's smooth on all surfaces. So what this does is it mitigates the issue of having to line up any kind of holes or anything with the barrel nut and the gas tube whenever you're installing the gas tube. So it kind of takes out a little bit of that guessing game, or having to get the exact right torque spec to be able to get everything to line up perfectly. We can just torque this down to the regular 40 to 80 foot-pounds of torque that it needs to be, and then we can install the gas tube perfectly fine. So we're gonna go ahead and slip this over the barrel, and then we're gonna install the barrel. And the one thing that I like to do is take some sort of anti-seize lubricant. Beware whenever you are using some of this stuff, it will get messy very quickly. So I always like to only have a little bit on there, and I'm extremely careful when I'm going to install it or going to put it on. So I only put it on a couple spots, because as you'll see in a minute, doing that will make it to where it will go all the way around to where you need it to. So we're gonna put that back, and then we can go ahead and slide the barrel into place, spin the barrel nut on with our hands. There we go, we got it started. And then once we get it on, we can back it off. And as you can see, it's already spread on by itself, so we don't have to worry about any of that. Now, the one thing that we're gonna do is the upper vice block will come with a top portion, and what this is for is to slide it over that Picatinny rail. And then what we're gonna do is open the vise all the way as far as it'll go, and then you turn it sideways, and then this gives more of a holding pressure. That way you can go ahead and tighten the barrel nut to spec. And so we'll go ahead and spin that all the way on until it's hand tight. And then we can take our torque wrench And a barrel nut needs to be tightened down to, some people say 30 to 80 foot-pounds. Some people say 40 to 80 foot-pounds. I just like to be on the safe side. I like to split that down the middle, and I like to torque mine down to 55 to 60 foot-pounds, just to be on the safe side and ensure that it's got as much holding power that it needs and that it's not going to come loose. So what we're gonna do is slide this on, and we're just gonna spin it until it gets, for the first 2 to 3, we're gonna tighten it till it gets to 30 foot-pounds, and we're gonna loosen it up. And this essentially just makes it to where the threads are going to actually mate with each other the way that they need to, and we're not gonna have any kind of issue or anything with that. And again, we will take it and we'll tighten it to 30 foot-pounds. So we're at 30. We'll take it and loosen it back off. And then on this third one is when we're gonna be torquing it all the way to spec. Okay, so now we got it to that 60 foot-pounds, so it's torqued down to spec. And the torque wrench that I'm using is the Wheeler Delta Series torque wrench. It's more of like a manual. You can get some digital torque wrenches, which I also do have, but that one was easier to reach, so I went with that one. Okay, so now we can take the upper out of the clamped vice block, and we can just put it back to normal for right now while we're installing the gas tube. And so we've got our gas tube right here. We're gonna go ahead and open that, and then I'm gonna give y'all a better camera angle. Okay, so we got everything right here, and the one thing that I like to do before I install anything is I like to take the gas block and go ahead and install the gas tube in it. That way, that's one less thing that we have to do whenever we actually go to put it on the gun. So we have the adjustment screw right here, and so we're gonna make sure that that is on the front facing. So we have the gas port right here. That's the hole that the gas actually goes into and travels through. So it's gonna be facing down normally, so it'll be shaped like this when it goes into the gun. And we've got the gas port right here on the bottom. And the gases will travel through to be able to get to the bolt and make contact with it to be able to cycle the bolt. And then this hole right here is the hole that the pin actually goes through. So what we're gonna do is make sure that we got it facing the right way. And then we're going to install this. This is where a set of roll pin starter punches will really come in handy to be able to get that thing started. And from here, I just want to make sure that everything is completely lined up, which from what I can see, it is. Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and get it started. And it's going to take a little bit of force to get it in, just as a heads up. But now we can swap from the roll. Now we can swap from the roll pin starter punch to the regular roll pin punch. And what I did to make it a little bit easier, as you can see the profile of it, it's got this kind of flatter part. So I used this flat part right here against the bench and then held with the side of my hand right here to where I could hold it down. And then this gives me a flat portion to be able to drive that pin in. But now we're just gonna go ahead and drive this pin in the rest of the way. Okay, so now we got that pin in, and now the gas tube is in place. Side note, remember, whenever we buy something, we buy it for the sticker. Okay, so now we got the gas block pin in, we've got everything in. So now we can go ahead and start installing the gas tube. and the gas block on the actual firearm itself. Okay, here's the lesson to remember. Nobody's perfect. I had to go through and fix this off camera. However, I went to put it on and realized that the gas tube was actually upside down. So I had to go through, and you basically want to make sure that it arches up and not down. I didn't catch it till I was actually putting it on the gun, but it's fixed now. When you install it, you just want to make sure that the gas tube arches up. That way it can go over the barrel nut the way it needs to. But now that we got that fixed, we can go ahead and slide that on, and it should slide in perfectly fine. And what you're basically wanting to make sure of is that everything is straight. And what I like to do is basically make it hover in the middle of the slot of the upper receiver, and then eyeball it. And normally eyeballing it gives you a good enough straightness to where nothing's going to get thrown off or anything like that. So now we can take it, turn it back sideways, clamp it back down, and this will give us access to the screws on the bottom right here. And for this, the package for the Seekin's Precision gas block doesn't have a specific torque spec. However, based on previous gas blocks that I've installed, it's about 40 inch-pounds that you want to do. So we've got our Wheeler fat wrench that I absolutely love. If you don't have one of these and you regularly build ARs, highly recommend getting one of them. They're an absolute lifesaver. So we've got it set to 40 inch-pounds, and all we're gonna do, once I find the right size bit, which is in this case a 3/32 bit, we're just gonna put that into place. We're gonna go ahead and just get them snug, not torqued down yet. And what I like to do is basically make sure that everything stayed straight and nothing came off center or anything like that. So now we can go ahead and torque it down. And I like to go in sections and tighten it down a little bit and just go back and forth until I get to the specified torque spec. Okay, so now that's 40 inch-pounds. That's 40 inch-pounds. And then I'll go back through and make sure that it's tightened down all the way. Okay, so now we have both of them torqued down to 40 inch-pounds. And from here, we can go ahead and take our muzzle device, whichever one that we chose. And in this case, honestly, I've always been used to running A2 bird cages. It's what I've used at work. It's what I've used on my personal ones. I've never owned a suppressor, so I've never really had a reason to swap to anything else. Later on, once I get a suppressor, finally, it will, I'll go from there. But basically what we're gonna do, as you can see a little bit of a slant right there on the edge of the crush washer. And what we're gonna do is make sure that that edge is up against the face of the barrel. So we're gonna slide that on. And then we can go ahead and tighten that down just to make sure that the threads are going to be good. And just as a safe precaution, I always like to take some blue Loctite and put it on the threads. What that ensures is there's a less probability of the muzzle device coming off when I don't want it to, but still allowing me to take it off should I need to. Never, 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 never use red Loctite on your muzzle device on the threads. It will make it almost impossible to get off. So what we're gonna do is take this and we're gonna take a torque wrench as well as a armor's wrench of some sort. In this case, like I said, we have the Wheeler Delta series AR combo tool. As you can see on here, the torque spec for the flash hider is 15 to 20 foot-pounds of torque. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and get the correct side on. And then we are going to take our torque wrench, place it on, and we're gonna go to 15 to 20. And you may have to readjust if you don't have all the space in the world. And the good thing about a crush washer is, as you can see, I'm going a lot, I'm twisting it a lot and it's staying at the same torque spec. However, it allows you to get to the, position of the flash hider that you want. And in this case, I like to have the slots on the top. That way, all the flash is going up and it kind of helps recoil just a little bit. Not as much as a muzzle brake, of course, but still enough. Okay, so now we have the barrel nut installed, gas block, gas tube installed, as well as the flash hider installed. Last thing to do is to put the handguard on, and then it'll be ready to go shoot. So what we're gonna do with this is take it and slide it over everything. And it's essentially gonna fit snug over the barrel nut. And what we're gonna have to do with this is take it out, take the upper out of the upper vise block. And then we're going to have to do this on the bench. So I'm gonna give y'all a overhead angle, that way y'all will be able to see it. Okay, so we have everything ready. And this is the Dirty Bird 9.3 inch Quadrail. It's just what I chose to put on here. So that being said, we're just gonna take this and slip it over. And whenever you see it meets with the top of the Picatinny rail on the upper receiver, you wanna make sure that there's no gap or anything right there. And then once that happens, we're gonna take these screws, and I just like to get them started. And then we have this is essentially like a locking nut, just to make sure that it doesn't come loose or anything like that. So we're gonna get that into place. And then we're gonna screw the middle one on. And at this point, this is all self-explanatory to be able to get everything tightened down. And this is another one of those things that I like to take some blue Loctite and just drop just a little bit on there. Same thing with the barrel nut threads and everything. Once you put a little bit on, the rest will, as you're screwing it on, it'll spread it out to the rest of the threads. So now we can go ahead and tighten this down just a little bit, just enough to hold it into place. And we'll do the same thing with the other two screws also. Okay, so after checking these 3 screws right here, it calls for them to be torqued down to 35 inch-pounds. So we're gonna go ahead and just get them just hand tight, not super snug. Okay, so we're gonna take this, and as you can see, we have it set on 40 right now. So what we're gonna do is take this bottom portion and pull out, and we're gonna twist counterclockwise to loosen it until we get to 35 inch-pounds. As you can see, now we're at 35 inch-pounds, and we can go ahead and torque these down. So I always like to start at the middle, torque it down, work to one side, torque it down, and then I'll go through one more time just to make sure that nothing loosened up or anything like that. Just like that one. And essentially I'm gonna do it until none of them move and all of them are torqued to the right spec. Okay, so now we have that torque down. Okay, and this is the almost completed upper receiver. The only thing that we have left to do is to get the bolt and the charging handle installed. So now we can open the package that the bolt came in. And luckily, this one is already, the bolt carrier group is already assembled. If you want me to show you how to disassemble and assemble that, let me know. That's a super easy thing. But we will take that as well as the charging handle. So to install the charging handle, we're gonna take it, and as you can see, there's these little bumps on both sides, and there's a corresponding slot inside the upper receiver that we are just going to slide that in, and now it's installed. Now what to remember whenever you install the bolt carrier group into the upper receiver is this part right here, this piece, that's the actual bolt itself. All of the rest of the stuff is just part of the bolt carrier group. So you got the firing pin, retaining pin. You can see the firing pin right there. You got the cam pin and then the bolt. The bolt needs to be out like that, or else if it's not, it won't go in. And the reasoning for that is that, as you can see this cam pin right here, that's off to the side, and it actually makes contact with this piece of the upper receiver. So whenever we pull it out, now it's in the middle. So it's out of the way, so it's able to actually slide into place. So now we have everything installed, and this is the completely assembled upper receiver. So hopefully after this video, you can see how to do it. Okay, so as you can see, this is the completed upper receiver. Hopefully the instructions that I gave you and everything to be able to assemble this they're clear and they're understandable to where hopefully after this video you can do everything yourself and you don't have to rely on somebody else to do it. Like I stated in the previous video though, there's a few tools that you're gonna need just to ensure that you can get everything exactly the way it needs to be. The first one I would recommend is the armorer's wrench, and the second is the torque wrench, both inch-pounds and a foot-pounds torque wrench. This will ensure that you can get everything to spec the way it needs to be. Everything else, as long as you have a good set of pin punches and stuff like that, the starter punches and the roll pin punches aren't an absolute necessity. However, they do help out a lot whenever you're installing those small pins and everything like that. Just makes it super easy. It's kind of like having the right tool for the right job. That's kind of what that boils down to. As well as an upper receiver vice block, and then in the previous video I used a lower receiver vice block. If you haven't watched that video yet, recommend going down and watching it. It just goes over the lower receiver. But now that we have the upper receiver and the lower receiver, all there's left to do is Tetris it together, and you will have a functioning AR15 that you can take to the range and shoot and be proud that you were able to build it yourself. But that's all I got for you in this video. Remember, I love you, God loves you, and y'all have a blessed rest of y'all's day.